wish I was special, but I'm a creep. I'm a winner.
Yes, Tom.
We're ready for you. Go back. Yeah, we are. We're all set. How you doing?
Oh, yeah. When we play, you get these waves of emotion in things. I don't know where the hell that comes from. I've got no idea. I mean, that's somebody up there. That's not me. The reason we're called Radiohead is we get beamed this shit. We've got no idea what's going on.
You're free to have had enough, and you don't understand. No ripcord, no ripcord, no ripcord, no ripcord.
I think the only thing we ever reiterate in interviews is the fact that we don't live in London, we live in Oxford. Yes. It's kind of like an anti-manifesto. It's the fact that we're not on the centre of things. We try and stay in the periphery.
There's a lot of talent in Oxford and a lot of young people, and there's no sense of rivalry.
One of the main reasons it's so healthy is there's not one sound, but there's lots of bands that play different sounds.
I think one of the coolest things is when we signed to EMI, we all made this kind of decision that we thought the most important thing was the music professional thing that was more important in some ways than qualities of friendship. Just realised that sort of certain qualities of friendship were actually more important, because it's kind of like you don't want to let the other people down individually. You know, there's a lot more pressure that way than because of the friendship rather than because of just the business.
How long have you two known each other?
Hideously long time. Sorry, about 12, 13 years old.
It's 11. 11
years old.
What was Tom York like initially when he joined the band, and how is he now, comparison?
When we got to band together, he was 16, and now he's 34. We all changed from 16 to 34, so...
Tom, from the outset, I think he's always been incredibly prolific as well, which was, it's very impressive in a 34-year-old, but especially in a 16-year-old. There was a real maturity in what he was doing.
I wish I was special. You're so fucking special. But I'm a creep. I'm a winner. What the hell am I doing here?
The press basically ignored us for a while, and then suddenly, at the end of last year, everyone discovered that they really liked the song. It was only played 4 times ever on radio, but it sold something like 20,000 copies in Britain, which is like a bit of a discrepancy there,
We've basically found that all the countries that have played it on the radio with any regularity, it's been successful in that country, and people have phoned up and asked to hear it more.
That song to me was almost a joke when I wrote it, yeah. And then I got all the letters from people who didn't see the joke at all. It was depressing because it was one song and it got misinterpreted, but then that's inevitable and that's fine. But this album was we're moving on. Why don't you get a life? There's so much pressure on you. Once you have a hit, it gets really silly. Everything pretty much changed overnight, really, for us. And there was a lot of locking myself in the room and writing sort of songs of consolation. the one difficult thing about making this record was the fact that we've been exposed to all these music biz things and being famous and la 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 and having a hit single and la 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 and so on and touring and so on. And that was our only point of reference, you know, in like my experiences and so on. But I didn't want to write an album about how terrible it was to be famous. Because A, it would be boring, B, it's not true.
We just don't think it's impressive to be in a band anymore, to be a rock star anymore. It's a very dated thing, very sad. So rather than all these bands that are still trying to live the sort of 70s idea of what it is to be a rock band and be a rock star, we're ignoring it. We're using the things that are normal about us. Just sort of me.
She lives with a broken man, a cracked polystyrene man who just crumbles.
This reluctant rock star thing.
I think I was reluctant to do a lot of the shit that goes with it. I'm reluctant to do that. But that's not like I'm reluctant. Obviously, I'm not, because you know, if you choose to go onto a stage and walk in front of a microphone, if you're reluctant, then you're a bit doomed, really. But I have gone through phases where I've really had a problem with it.
How'd you play yourself out? Get 4 guys to push you out on the stage, I guess.
Well, that did happen. That certainly happened at Glastonbury. I was like, bye then, halfway through the set. And Ed grabbed me and said, if you walk off now, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. It's a fair cop.
And then he'll get to you and teach you how to be holy. Can you do it to yourself?
Where do you get your knack for melody vocally?
I don't know. I think that it comes from nowhere at all that I know about. And it's vaguely embarrassing because every time I sit down and like look for it, it's never there.
It's touching in those dark frequencies in people.
But I see, I think that's a music thing. When you're talking about frequencies, it is frequencies. It's like, to me, I think a lot of people don't like, who don't like a music because of the way my voice sounds, which is great. That's fine, because if that's the only reason, then cool. There's nothing I can do about that, so I don't have to think about that at all. You know, if people have a problem with the way my voice sounds, it's like having a problem with what I look like. It's like, you know, I could get surgery, but I don't think it would help.
You didn't spin.
What?
I said you didn't spin.
Well, we went through a phase of trying to see what it would look like. And there you go. I'm not precious about the way my voice sounds at all. Personally, I can't. I'd like to be able to meditate, right? Because that would be a nice thing, because that stops me going crazy. But I can't meditate. The way I do it is when we play. When we play music, that's when I get my headspace and my head's clear.
Oh, the high. You can't beat it. There's no better drug than playing a gig and like going well and just you're up for hours.
It's actually really odd watching footage of us playing, because the whole thing actually looks much more cohesive than it feels on stage. You know, I think some of the best performances actually come from the audience, because some people just so into it, flailing all over the place.
Headlining Glastonbury on
Saturday night. This is kind of like a very important gig for us, so we're all very nervous about it.
Are you really nervous?
Yeah.
You still get nervous before gigs?
Every time. It's important, it shows you care.
Sometimes you get these waves of emotion in things when we play, and that just comes from, I don't know where the hell that comes from. I've got no idea. I mean, that's somebody up there, you know. That's not me. That the reason we're called Radiohead is we get beamed this shit. We've got no idea what's going on.
This is what you get when you mess with us.
You go on stage, you've got one chance, that's it. And that's what you do. And it's an incredibly exciting thing, even if it's crap. It's like, that's all you got. You've got one chance.
When you do large shows, it's very frightening because, for me, it's very frightening because it switches between being the most amazing experience on earth when everyone's on your wavelength to being in front of a mob, which is utterly terrifying. I think it takes a lot out of you mentally. It kind of... to have all those people in your head is really not very easy at all. I got really sick of the whole white rock music complaint, sort of negative, but with no sort of structure to it, no point to it. And I just never wanted to hear any of it ever again, even though that's what we'd essentially been involved in. I didn't want to apologise for that, but I really didn't want to be involved in that sort of mental makeup anymore. Didn't want anything to do with it. I just kind of thought there were better things to talk about, really.
We had that thing where we were sort of embarrassed to be a guitar band, really. So we were just trying to sort of go down different areas all the time. Board of guitars.
We shouldn't take credit for the authorship of a lot of the music, because a lot of the time it's just sort of chaos going on. Some things come out of it and you keep them and you go, that's great. And that's why I've always been into computers. And they're the most fantastic cheat tool. You don't need any skill, which is the most important thing.
It's making me feel ill when we have crashed a party. This is what you get.
The winner of Best Album is the one and only Radiohead!
Q Magazine had a reader's poll.
Yeah.
And you were voted as, this album was voted as best album ever created. How do you react to that praise?
Just like that.
Yeah. Yay! Does it make you feel good, though?
It's a joke. It's a completely pointless exercise, really. And it just makes you feel uncomfortable, ultimately. We delved into it on OK Computer, but it's not like I was even trying to prove anything by wanting, just banging on about computers all the time. It was just that nothing else was working for me.
The reason that we write music is in order to communicate with people. Never at any stage have we written music in order not to communicate with people. That's entirely the point, which is why I always think it's pop music. Because to me, it's like, that's the point is to try and communicate with as many people as possible.
Were you trying to push the parameters of pop music in this?
Oh, no. I hope not.
Everyone tried that in the 70s and it went wrong, didn't it?
Not really, no. I don't know. I think it's a pop record. I think it's just you can't first listen, it's got a different atmosphere to it.
I don't think we've ever been a pop group. I mean, I think that we started off maybe as an alternative kind of rock group, but pop, you know, there are pop. I mean, I think Karma Police is a classic pop song.
Slowly learning that it's just about not worrying. It's just about being in the moment that you're in. It's something I used to have a real problem with, is being in the moment. My partner always used to say, you're never here now. You're always over there, or over there, or over there, but you're never here. The short attention span, yeah. Attention span of a gnat on speed, as someone said. I think I've got my head around that now. And that's a musical thing. A lot of the time, it can take months to get something right, to get one little thing right, you know, and we'll keep going and going and going till we're driving ourselves up the wall, and then one day we'll just wake up and do it completely wrong and discover that's the way we wanted to do it.
I had read something that you had felt that melody, even listening to melody, was an embarrassment. Is that right?
Yeah, well, melody in the sense of something that a radio programmer would understand. That sort of melody then, yeah. Oh, here's the chorus, it's coming. Oh, there it is. That sort of thing. It's very easy to write melodies that will get heard or will get accepted. Or it's a piece of piss. Anybody can do it. You can write a book on it. None of that sort of thing was in my head. The melodies in my head were sort of clashing dissonance and nastiness, and so...
I think we want to avoid this whole thing of us coming across as personalities, really.
That sort of cult of personality thing is nonsense.
Well, I think what we do between us, we put together music which we're very happy with, and that the whole visual side that surrounds it that's the important focus. I mean, we're secondary to that, really. It would be horrible to feel that you had to live up to some kind of larger-than-life ideal beyond that, and you know, it would probably, again, it comes back to that whole thing of shoehorning yourself into something which is just utterly inappropriate for you. If we actually tried to go down that route, you know, the whole thing would implode, really.
I guess there's the general perception that we're fairly intense, 5 angry young men, but we were. But I don't think we are anymore. You know, you just can't carry on like that.
I find it personally extremely distressing and upsetting when people would see, like, particularly Tom in such a way that was not how I knew him and how we worked together.
The fact that there isn't any, like, you are like 1,000 different people every day.
Your sense of the way that you've been depicted is inaccurate.
Yeah, but I don't care. You know what I mean? I think the people who understand, people don't. And I don't feel answerable to it, and I've no wish to fight it because it's really their fault and it's their problem. It ain't nothing to do with me, and it really doesn't matter a shit anyway. And I don't want to enter into a dialogue with the history of what other people have written. My personality, manic, kind of nasty, creative artist, a bit strange, totally self-indulgent. I'm self-critical, clever, freak, confused, quite lame, suffering as brave. Playing with cult of personality is cool, but I don't want to do that because, to me, it's a very just a destructive place to be. To have people like reflecting the music back onto me. No. You know, this is just a noise. That sort of cult of personality thing is, I just don't. If people are still involved with that or writing about it, to me, it's just so not relevant anymore that it's okay. I just find it funny.
So it's not even a question of getting used to it or dealing with it, it's just a question of ignoring it.
Nonsense. And it should be nonsense, because it's a destructive thing. I mean, for up-and-coming bands, it's like the one thing you should never, ever get into is that thing where you start having a dialogue with what people create around you. If you start feeling like you're answerable to it, then you're lost. Forget it. Give up.
Artists, if I can describe ourselves as artists, are one of the few groups of people who are actually outside the confines of politics and of corporate structures and money making and can be heard, and so we have to do it, you know.
Did you do many benefits?
No, I mean, this was brought up, and I think this is about the only thing we'd agree to do, really.
Yeah.
Because everything else is a bit messy, but this is really, really clear-cut. I mean, music to me is videotape anyway. I mean, I think all your favourite records are like videotape, like Queen is Dead by the Smiths. That to me, from beginning to end, is a videotape of a certain period in my life, and every time I listen to it, that's what I have going on. You know, it's actually much better than that camera there, because it encompasses so much more. And it brings back memories in the way that painting and writing don't do. I don't know why, but music does that.
A lot of people look to you and your records as the way you look to Morrissey.
That's terrifying.
Can you wrap your head around that?
No, I don't wish to. I basically just worked really hard on getting just rid of all that stuff forever. Because I just basically don't feel answerable to it. I make music and that's the end of it.
There's people that I know that would get in fistfights arguing over the importance of Radiohead and their albums, and I'm sure you've heard that. I think your music does touch.
Luckily, I'm not in the room.
There was nothing to fear, nothing to
Do you think that people like the pain in your music?
I choose to channel a lot of these things into the lyrics I write.
Right.
And that's all. And it's my way of dealing with stuff that I can't deal with. You know, like painters deal with stuff they can't deal with by painting it or whatever.
For me, the way that, I use music in order to address those things. And when you get something good coming out of it, it's sort of like a really great leap forward.
see you in the dark, falling down the fast lane, coming after me.
You know, it's team up there, isn't it? It's all about teamwork.
It's all about teamwork. It's not individuals, it's all about teamwork.
We find it exciting about recording, about the way the five of us work together, about maintaining that dynamic between the five of us.
I wanted to stick with these people and make music because I know that the sum total of what we do is far better than what I would do on my own.
We're doing what we've always done. You know, when we were a band before we signed, we were 5 years in village halls writing and playing songs that were, one was a ska number, one was, except it was a little bit more, you know, we're a bit more subtle these days. We hide the influences a bit better, but you know, it's the same thing fundamentally. It's just enjoying music, enjoying your fans of music, and you want to rip those things off.
Not my problem if it's wrong. You try the best you can. You try the best you can. The best you can is get enough. You can try the best you can.
think a lot of the reason that it went to #1 was because on pre-sales or whatever they are, you know, pre-orders. That's my rationale this week. It surprised me greatly, given the context of what else is going around.
What would it say about the public? That they're craving something different, or?
I guess so. What, you mean the stupids haven't won?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Either the stupids win or yeah. Well, 1 week only, the stupids have lost. They have been voted out.
Women and children first, and children first, and children here and alive, everything all the time.
I don't think it's that clever. I don't think what we've done is particularly brave. From where I'm sitting, I don't see it as particularly experimental. I don't see that it's particularly advanced or like any, you know, it ain't rocket science or anything. It's just sort of like, well, you know, we're dabbling, you know. We're going to get heavily into this, but right now this is a dabble record, you know, and it's still essentially, I think, pop music.
Why was it that you were interested in exploring non-structured pop music?
I totally had enough. I mean, I didn't play guitar for 2 years. Every time I picked the guiar up, I got nothing out of it, and none of that sort of stuff was doing it for me anymore. We basically had always developed our stuff, 5 of us in a room together, and then suddenly I was sort of saying, I don't want to do that. It's not like I don't want to rule it out, but I want to get something else out of it. You don't go into the studio and produce your sing-along ditties that you sell millions of copies of, quids in, develop a drug habit, get boring and disappear.
What are you doing here? What's going on?
We're trying to kill ourselves. If we were going to carry on, then we were going to carry on our own terms and trying to do things in a different way. And, I mean, take the video thing, we decided not to make videos again because, well, it came from lots of different things. Principally, it was like after watching so many mobile phone adverts and car adverts that looked more like videos than videos did. All the stuff going with the MTVs and MuchMusics of this world, I really started to have a big problem with space invading things, eye candy, just producing endless f***ing eye candy. I didn't want to get back into that thing.
But you've been drifting for a long, long time. I wrote a song for you.
I kind of had a problem with my own voice, and hearing people like myself on the radio made me not want to sound like me, and I would do anything, frankly, to not sound like me.
You're talking about having heard, like,
Having your
Travis
voice
and
reappropriated.
Coldplay and stuff.
Yeah, but, you know, they do their own thing, whatever. I don't have a problem with it anymore, but at the time I did.
You didn't find it flattering that they were copying you?
No, I didn't. I don't find that flattering at all.
Band comparisons are like, they're just silly. I mean, every band sounds like every other band.
Right.
If you want to make them sound, you know, you can say anything about anyone.
Our big fear after OK Computer, because everything had been so glowing for that album, was that we would be panned, basically.
Yeah. I think it's really good that, I think Amnesiac as well has really divided people.
Yeah.
I know, it's been really passionate. There hasn't, I
Either way,
seen,
yeah.
either way, I haven't seen much middle ground.
No.
And that's always, I think that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always what we wanted. In a way, it's much better to get an extreme reaction either way, because at least you're doing something that makes people react.
I mean, generally in the past, I think the way forward has come from with when we were playing the tracks from Kid A and Amnesiac live. You know, what became apparent was that actually trying to figure out a way, and the way that we figured out how to translate those songs onto a stage and a live performance, that was taking us to somewhere that we, you know, hadn't been before as a band.
You've got to be able to play it live, and unfortunately computers aren't the best things to play along with you. You have to play along with them.
I looked up the word gloaming in the dictionary, 2 different dictionaries.
Find anything on it?
Neither of them had it.
No, it's a very old word. It's in the Oxford English Complete Utterly Dictionary. It was used a lot, sort of turn of the century, 19th century into the 20th century. Robbie Burns used it a lot.
It is sort of nicknamed the gloaming, though.
Yeah, it's kind of a second... I got into the second titles. They used to do it in Elizabethan plays. Everything used to have a second title. Not that this is an Elizabethan play, obviously.
And I know that you like to use words as opposed to maybe the meanings. You like the way they sound.
Yeah.
Is it the case with the gloaming?
Sort of. Yeah, sort of. I mean, it just sounds very frightening.
There's a combination of gloom in there.
Yeah, which is why we didn't call it that, because one of the main reasons is like, okay, everybody knows what's going to happen. We're going to call it a gloaming, and everyone's going to go, oh, the glooming. And we just couldn't face that.
There's a warmth that we wanted to convey in this record, although lyrically it's certainly dark, but there's a warmth to the record.
Is this a return to structure?
I don't think so. I mean, no, what we did with the other two, Kid A and Amnesiac, is we were creating structure in edits, which was a Can thing, basically. Can, and like a lot of electronic music and a lot of krautrock and stuff was structured in the way you chose to chop. What we did was we took that on board when we did this. So it's not like arrangements as in, oh, it's a classic arrangement. But as in, the 5 of us sort of in the room together have to know roughly when things are going to happen. And sometimes it's very strict, because otherwise it will fall to pieces, and sometimes it's not. But it is more arranged in the sense that it was all geared up to do like a performance. Whatever happened, it was a performance, and you go into a room and you set up it's a performance. So I guess that makes it look like it's more arranged than maybe it actually is.
Something big is gonna happen. All of my dead body.
How does it happen?
Well, we don't know, but it was quite a weird one this time because we were very militant about destroying CDs after we listened to them and so on. And
because what's out there is not the record. It's
no, and Nigel can date it exactly. He knows exactly what day someone came into the studio before we got there, booted up the computer, burnt a CD, switched the computer off and left. That's the only way it could have happened. There is no other way, because we didn't burn a CD of those mixes like that ever. We never did one. But Nigel knows exactly when it was done, because he knows what mix he finished, you know what I mean? It's freaky, man.
We felt compromised in terms of the recording process, because those mixes which
weren't approved by us. They're not the ones that made the final cut of the record. It's not how we'd have chosen to present people with the record in the first place.
The thing that really does my head in is the fact we then have to wait almost 3 months before the record actually comes out. That to me is stupid. Really fucking stupid. Just because it's sitting there, you know, and everyone's sort of going into this like, copy protection, blah, watermark CD. There's nothing you can do, man. It's digital. Once it's out there, it's out there.
Bigger scheme of things, it's not a political record.
It's not a protest record.
People are calling it that, though. Or they want to, it seems.
Yeah, we just didn't set out to do that. And I don't think the music sounds like that. Because the music's just too sort of joyful. It's too positive. There's too much positive shit going on for it to be a protest record. A protest record is just anger, and it's usually pretty ugly. And I don't think this is either of those.
Nothing's ever good enough for you.
And maybe it's angry, but it's only angry in the sense of anger may be where it started from, but it's not where it ended up. It ended up with something much more beautiful than anger, because anger's always ugly. And so I don't think it's a protest record because it comes from so many different places. I think if we sat down and we made a protest record, it would just be shit. And it would just be awful.
The government, they don't speak for us.
But, you know, Hail to the Thief, it is about a particular instance, and subsequently about constantly being presented with an absurdity that I just could not deal with. Not just to do with George W., but in my own country as well. The absurdity of our glorious leader travelling the globe as peacemaker, where actually he was just being a f***ing warmonger. I think that most people feel in a situation now where they're deeply disenfranchised with the people that they were supposed to have voted in, because those people do not feel in any way threatened or answerable to their general public. They don't feel in any way answerable to their voters. They feel answerable to the corporate lobby groups. They feel answerable to the World Trade Organization. They're answerable to the IMF. And there's this stratosphere which is way above us, and really we have no control over. And the thief is the taking of that control. But it's also just absurdity. I think that pure evil you see in people who believe they're doing the right thing, even though the right thing may cause the suffering of tens of thousands of people. But they go to sleep at night firmly believing they've done the right thing. To me, the only way that can happen is if they're surrounded by a cloud of some description that makes it look like it's all right when it's not. I have lots of friends, and we go out of an evening and we sit there and we try and work out how he sleeps at night. The only conclusion we ever come to is that there's a force, pure evil, pushing him and the people that surround him to make them think that they're doing the right thing. There's no reality out there telling them that. Nobody on the ground is telling them that. Even the bloody media isn't telling them that. But they still do it.
I don't think we do. It doesn't feel like we do a lot for people's lives. You know, we provide some music and a soundtrack to some people's experiences, and that's great. But it doesn't save lives. You know, it's nice to be a part of people's fluff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the music's serious, but it's like it is just music as well. You know, which is great. You know, I think look back and I think we did really well, all things considered, considering it was a lot of hard work. And you know, we thought that being in a band was going to be one thing, and it turned out to be something else altogether. But it was great. It was good, and we've done some really good things, and we've been very lucky.
Steer away from the rocks. We'd be a walking disaster. just come